Alright, Cloud Cadets, from this video we are going to set up my environment. So two things. I'm going to open the boards here, and then I'm going to open the repos in another tab. You can do that by right clicking, open link a new tab, or click on the middle mouse button. And if we go here, we see I've removed the other ones and kept the default one named because of this despair. I'm going to show you how I do things. You don't have to do like me. You can follow along with your own setup that you did in the previous videos, or different tech stacks or whatever. It's okay, but it's healthy to see different ways. So I'm not going to create any repositories right now. I'm going to do it all locally because I'm in my project. I'm on the DevOps team and I need to set up the development environment. And what I did, I went to boards, and if I click on the backlogs, I created a new feature that I called development environment. And in here I have a user story I called, as a developer, I want to have my development environments in place. Sorry for the lack of creativity. And then I created two tasks: create project for frontend, create project for backend. And perhaps a better name is create and set up project for frontend. And here, create and set up project for backend. And we will have use of this later. We're working with pull requests. But for now, we leave it as it is. And we can start from here. The first thing I'm going to do, I'll minimize the browser. I'll create two new folders here. I'll call the first one Cloud Cadets -backend. I call the next one new folder Cloud Cadets frontend. And what I'm going to do now, you could do with editors, but I think it's faster with the command line interface. So I'll right click here, open in terminal. And here I'm going to use the command .NET new solution, give it a name, and I'm going to call it Cloud Cadets .backend. And while I'm inside this folder, first let's verify that it was created by using dir. And if you're on a Mac or Linux, it is ls. So dir, we see our solution file in there. I'm also going to use a handy command line command that creates a git ignore for us that covers most of our needs. .NET new git ignore. And I verify by writing dir, and we see the git ignore there. Then I'm going to open the folder. I'm going to double click here. This will automatically open it in Visual Studio. And we see we're inside our solution. I'll right click here, add new project. We go to the API that we used in the earlier videos. Next, and we see all that we have to set is the project name. Solution is already set for us. It knows, it's aware. I'll call the project Cloud Cadets Backend.api. So I'm having some kind of a consistent naming policy here, or conventions, whatever you want to call it. I'll use most defaults, but I won't be using controllers. I will be using minimal API. Okay, great. There we have it. The project is there, and we should always run it to verify that it works. Things can happen, naming conventions, whatever. Let's see. And let's open the link, I guess, in this browser. And great, it works. Perfect. Let's close it down. Close. Now let's create a local repository and connect it with our remote. So create Git repository, Azure DevOps. We have our correct organization, our correct project, and the repository name Cloud Cadets.backend. But here I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to name it as the local folder, Cloud Cadets -b. And we'll see if it works. And it was started, I see. And then we can go in here, we can go refresh, and there we have it. I'll open it, and there we have our project. Finally, we can remove that repository, the repository of despair. And if we go back to here, repo, this will be our default now. Great. And now I can do the same for the front end. And let's say I use, I'm thinking, let's use Blazor for the front end, since this is a .NET developer focused, I guess, project. And here I'll do the same. Let's see if this works on Windows. You see we can drag it by default. No, it doesn't. I think we have to do CD on Windows. Then we can, perfect. We could have been lazy, just open a new tab, but it's good to see different ways of doing things. That's clear. And if we push the up arrows, we don't need to do all of this correctly. And here we're back to this, but we call it front end. And then we can go back to our .NET new git ignore. And then let's verify. Indeed, we have the solution file and we have the git ignore. We do the same here. Double click this one, close the folder. And here, let's right click. Let's add new project. And then, assume you haven't done recent project, we'll go to the Blazor filter. And it's the first one. Don't touch the Blazor server app. That's an old template. But if you were doing WebAssembly, then you can use this WebAssembly standalone app. But this is the one we usually go with. The first one, Blazor web app. And here, let's do the same naming style, Cloud Cadets, the front end. And then what can we have for names? Since we will be using a server, and maybe in the future we want to swap to WebAssembly. Let's start with Blazor and call it Blazor server. Long, but clear at least. And here we can leave the defaults. We don't want any authentication type. Server rendering, not WebAssembly or auto. And per page component interactive location. We can include the sample pages, so we have something to work with. And we'll click create. And there we have this. We can run it like the other project to see that it works. And let's open one here. Nice, it works. Ooh, cool. Nice. All good. Let's close this. Let's close this. Now let's go back to Git. Create Git repository. Go to Azure DevOps here. Push to new remote. Organization, Azureverse, Project Cloud Cadets. And here the same naming convention. C, smaller, Cloud Cadets, a dash, and a small f. And then create and push. And that's done. And let's go up here to verify, to refresh. You can press refresh on this one, or you can use keyboard Control R. And I think for Mac it's Command R. And we can see up here, there we go, our front-end project as well. Great. Let's close this. Let's close the terminal, we don't need it anymore. I'm going to move this here because we might play around with this later. We have the front end, the back end, and here's another reason why I had that naming. When I open Visual Studio Code, we can see those recent projects, and it's easy to differentiate. One is the front end, one is the back end, and the folders are consistent as well, because if somebody git clone this, they'll have that same structure. So let's say I'm working now with a teammate, and we're gonna have a, let's see here, we're gonna pretend that we have teammates, we're gonna experiment in a different way. So let's go to the back end. All right, we didn't need to go this boring approach. Only if you're perhaps working in others. Let's see what happens while I'm logged in, if this will work. Clone in Visual Studio. Let's open this. I think this might not work. Oh, it works because I'm logged in. Great. Okay. We see local clone from there, but I don't want that. I want that. Let's see. I'm gonna just copy this because when we change directory, this is removed for some reason. Let's go to desktop. I'm a Visual Studio user. And then we'll do this slash Cloud Cadets Backend clone. We stand by while this loads. This is taking very long. Oh, finally. There we go. And if you just close this down, close this, let me see how does it look here. Cloud Cadets Backend and the project. So it's consistent, and that's how we like it. And we can close this. Can we differentiate if it's automatically? No, it didn't even open. Once I open it, we'll have a third one here, but let's leave it for now. So that's how a Visual Studio user would have done that. Let's do the VS Code one as well. Let's go here, and then let's go with clone. Sorry, clone. Clone in VS Code. And I think, let's see if it opens it up automatically. Great. What happens now? Nice. We go to desktop, VS Code user, select as a repository destination. Yeah, sure, open it as well. And then let's just minimize it and make sure we get this consistent directory name. Great, Cloud Cadets -backend. So this person will work from here. New terminal, git status, good. They're all connected. So in the next video, we're gonna sync everyone, because right now we didn't create any dev branch. We only set things up. So until next uplink,